Hey everyone, welcome to r/AskReddit. Today we're going to be looking at a post called, People Who Have Been Falsely Accused of Something. How has it affected your life, and did the accuser face any consequences? Just a quick reminder, if you enjoy this video make sure to leave a like, and if there's anything you want to say feel free to put it in the comment section below. I try to read and respond to every comment. Without further ado, let's get into it. I was accused of stealing at work, but video proved that it was my accuser who committed the theft. I still lost my job and he stayed on so the employer could deduct the money from his future paychecks. That was years ago and, in the grand scheme of things, had a positive impact on my life. I was kicked out of a juvenile drug rehab center for testing positive for alcohol after a weekend home pass. I didn't drink any alcohol while I was on pass, and I have no idea how it ended up in my urine. Nevertheless, my parents told me it was my final strike, told me to pack my shit and get out. I left home at 17 and never went back. From then on, I was on my own. My relationship with my parents is strained these days, and I guess a big part of it is due to my resentment over this incident. A guy that used to work with a girl I was talking to was crushing on her hard, and ended up telling her that I had started coming to her work asking about her schedule, whereabouts, and that I gave him a bad vibe. I'd been talking to the girl for a few weeks. She'd been working with him for about a year. She took his word over mine and I never talked to her again. Thanks Sky, real mature. Years ago, I had an insane neighbor living in the apartment above me. Basically, she decided I had offended her and was dead set on ruining my life. It all started because my boyfriend had politely asked her dad to stop hammering at 12:30 a.m. After 3 hours, on a weeknight, she lost her mind and tried to break into our apartment. I called the police and heard her tell them that my boyfriend was cussing, pounding on the door, yelling, etc., and also that we sell dope, which could not be further from the truth. It was almost comical. She got ticketed for disorderly conduct and from then on targeted me. She started calling the police claiming I committed a series of progressively worse crimes. First, she claimed that I was pointing a gun at her through her window. I was at work and had video evidence to prove it. Then, she literally beat herself up and called the police claiming I had assaulted her. I've never even been close enough to her to touch her. Then, she filed a false restraining order against me, making all sorts of other claims, saying I called her 8-year-old son the N-word, assaulted her, threatened her, etc. She accused me with such conviction in court that I legitimately wondered if I had lost my mind and really did those things. This was a big deal because if she won, she could essentially have me legally harassed indefinitely by saying I broke the order. Fortunately, the judge and the police knew she was crazy, but she also never got into any trouble for it because they didn't want to deal with her. I was terrified she would hurt her son or herself and framed me for it, because she just kept getting crazier. I moved out of my apartment and never even spoke to her. I did everything I could to get away from her, but she just kept coming after me. She eventually found a new target and moved on. Even now, I get nervous if we ever get an unexpected knock at the door, thinking it might be the police here to question me about something. In elementary school there was this pencil that people were crazy over, where if you shake the pencil the lead comes out. Kids started stealing other people's pencils, and since people got the same exact brand and the were limited colors, it was hard to determine whose was whose. I had one too and I didn't have any problems with it until, one time I was outside of class for something, and when I came back, apparently some girl told on me because she thought I stole her pencil. And the teacher just listened to her and went through my pencil case, which was in my desk, and gave it to her. I was super shy back then, so I never spoke up, but this post reminded me of how unfair it was that my teacher seriously went through my desk. I haven't bought another one of those pencils ever since. Shaking my head. Someone I knew online claimed that I was a pedophile. that I was trying to entice young boys into sex, and had child pornography on my computer. None of these things were true. 2 women from some organization that investigated child porn came to my door and searched the computers, my DS, etc. They, of course, didn't find anything. The worst part was that I lived with my mother at the time. She's never liked me, and I'm pretty sure she now thinks I'm a pedophile. It strained my relationship with my mom, which wasn't good to begin with, and I find trusting people a lot more difficult. The accuser faced no consequences. Mine was pretty minor, but it ticked me off. In elementary school, I was accused of calling a girl I didn't like a Jewish pain in the butt. In reality, I just called her a pain in the butt. No mention of her religion. Nobody believed me. I had to go to her house and apologize to her entire family, and then also had to go to the house of another Jewish family in my class and apologize to them. A couple of years later, the family went to Disneyland and the girl's mum swallowed a bee and had to go to the ER. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed a bit. I got kicked out of the military right before I was supposed to finish my term, so I don't get full benefits, and no, the accuser did not. A girl who has hated me since kindergarten spread a rumor that I said nasty things about some of my closest friends, calling one fat, another bad things, and saying another bought her friends. It was a few weeks before we left the school and went out separate ways. It was a private school and very few people live in the same towns. When I was told from yet another person that this girl said stuff, I thought it was leading up to some huge end of school drama where she would try to get one last punch in. I decided to warn the administrators just in case. I didn't want them to do anything about it, just be aware of the situation. But lo and behold, they called us both into the office and got mad at me. Their reasons were that I was asking her why she spread false rumors, and apparently it was harassment. As if when she kept spreading lies about me when I told her to stop wasn't harassment, slander, and defamation of character. She won that time, but someday when the real world hits her, it'll be punishment enough. I come from a family of bad people. I have bad branches on both sides of the family. When I was 17, I went on a trip to Cancun, Mexico for 7 days. I was there with extended family, aunts. I don't remember the specific days, but let's say it was April 10th to 17th. The day after I got back, the 18th, I was pulled out of school during the day by my father. My parents had been divorced for years, and while it was relatively peaceful, he wasn't supposed to be on the list of people who were able to do that. Anyway, he pulled me out of school and drove us to my half-sister's house. No explanation, no answers to any of my questions. We get there and the police are there with my half-sister and my 11-year-old niece. The niece accused me of putting my hand down her pants. On April 11th, I told the police that I was out of the country, and had them call my mother and aunts to prove it. When the police asked my niece about this, she said she was mistaken. It was the 12th. I had told the police that I was gone from the 10th until the 17th. I told them that separately, the police, so neither my half-sister or my niece knew this. By the time my niece accused me of doing this on the 14th, conveniently mistaken on the date over and over again, the police were fed up with her lies and let me go. My dad never asked me about it, never tried to explain anything. He knew I was gone. He had to sign paperwork giving me permission to leave the US, but he never defended me, never stood up for me. I never asked him what his thoughts were. Listening to my niece make these accusations against me, knowing that they were false for other reasons. I didn't see this niece for 10 years or so when I ran into her at a bar. I was with some friends and suddenly this overweight drunk woman runs up to me and gives me a giant bear hug. I had no idea what was going on or who this person was. Apparently I flinched and tried to disengage, and my friends laughed their asses off at me. Niece was angry, and drunk, that I didn't recognize her. After 10 years, it was a few days later that I explained to my friends why I reacted the way I did. They didn't think it was so funny by then. false rape accusations 3 times from the same person. No consequences. Well, no legal ones. But I didn't go to jail, so that was nice. By the time the 3rd one rolled around, I knew the victim advocate on a first-name basis, and even she was rolling her eyes. A similar thing happened to me. Some dude had pressured a girl I knew into taking drugs, and she called me at 2 a.m. crying and telling me she was uncomfortable. I drove over there with 2 of my buddies and picked her up, and the dude got aggressive with us and we nearly jumped him. Anyway, he fucks off realizing he's outnumbered 3 to 1. The next day, people are calling me pissed, and come to find out he spread rumors that I raped her. She talked to the cops with me and I watched them cuff him. Not sure what happened after that, but my reputation hasn't quite recovered still. I apparently have a really common name, first, middle and last, because I recently got a criminal court order in the mail. I was confused because it didn't give any specific details. It was sent from a county in my state that I rarely travel through, and I had only gotten my first speeding ticket about a month prior. Once I realized it wasn't referring to the speeding ticket, I called that county clerk and turns out they sent it to my address thinking I was the other person. It was for possession of a controlled substance. I am currently a teacher and hope to run for state office one day. I was spooked. I wrote a letter explaining the situation. Thank goodness for a lawyer significant other, and haven't heard anything since. I'm just thankful for social security numbers right now, otherwise I'm not sure how I could prove that it actually wasn't me. If you want to read some of the responses, the link to the post will be in the description. And if at any point you enjoyed the video and want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you have an amazing day. See you next time.